happiness, no tears from Millennia Phillips Sellers. Just the joy, she says, her 9-year-old son Jonathan experienced when he rode his bike here with his 13-year-old friend Charlie Keever on March 17, 1993. Their bodies found just yards away from where 30 years later a celebration was being held. Doves symbolizing peace released by the mothers of the two boys whose lives were cut short. This man was a boy himself when the tragedy happened, a classmate of Jonathan's.
He was 9 years old in my fourth grade class. The class clown always made us laugh. He was 9 years old. He was way too young, still new to the world, just having fun.
Since the boys' deaths, their mothers and community members formed a foundation to promote child safety. Jonathan's mom even wrote this book about it. Another mother who knows the pain of losing a child to a predator is Erin Runyon. Her daughter Samantha was kidnapped and killed.
We have made light years of progress in the last 30 years, for sure. The Amber Alert was signed into law just after my daughter was murdered, and that was 20 years ago.
Thanks to Amber Alerts, Runyon says California now has a 99% recovery rate for missing children. Jonathan Sellers' mom says laws aimed at child predators have also been strengthened, but children need to understand stranger danger, so it hopefully never gets that far.
The person that murdered my son and Charlie, yes, he went to jail. He was on death row, and eventually he did die. I'd rather my son be alive.
So she continues to fight for kids, but with joy, not fear in her heart.
The kids have a right to come out and enjoy a bike, come out and enjoy the day.
Welcome back, my true crime kings and queens. Welcome back to another episode on the San Diego Dark Crime channel. Now, for those of you guys that have not subscribed to this channel, please make sure you subscribe, like, and share, so that way you can hit that post notification bell so you know every time that we drop a case that you don't miss this great content. So without further ado, let's get straight into this case. So this case takes us back on March 27th of 1993. This case involves two young, precious little baby boys by the name of 13-year-old Charlie Keever and 9-year-old Jonathan Sellers. So please, come on, and join us in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Charles Allen Keever was born on November 1st of 1979 to David and Maria Keever. He was the third of 3 siblings and the youngest, and that include his older sister Lisa Keever and his older brother Michael Keever. And his 9-year-old friend Jonathan Lee Sellers was born to Dennis and Mylena Sellers. He was the 4th of 6 siblings that include his twin sister Jennifer, his eldest brother Alton, his sister Natasha, his sister Tammy, and his brother Dennis Jr. In the morning hours of March 27th of 1993, 13-year-old Charlie Keever, along with his friend Alton Williams, who happened to be the bigger brother of 9-year-old Jonathan Sellers, they would plan the day riding their bikes in Imperial Beach and plan on enjoying the day. But last-minute changes would opt the boys to switch out partners because Alton had to go to a recital. So instead of Alton joining Charlie on the bike ride, it would be his 9-year-old brother, Jonathan Sellers. By noon, both boys would head on their blue BMX bikes, and they would ride out to their first stop, which would be an arcade. And then after the arcade, they will go to a locals Rally's restaurant where they would have lunch. And then they would hop back on their bikes and go to their third stop. And their third stop would be at a Petco or a pet shop where they played with the puppies and the kittens. They will also have a brief conversation with the manager before hopping back on their bikes and riding out. That would be the last time that anyone had ever seen the boys alive again. I'm going to go ahead and put my trigger warning right now. For those of you guys that are sensitive to some of the graphic details, please stop this video before we proceed. For everyone else, let's get back into this case. So nightfall would approach, and unfortunately, neither boys would come home. They would simply disappear. So their families begin to worry and search frantically around the neighborhoods where the boys would usually go biking. Jonathan Sellers' older brother, Alton, who was the one who was supposed to join Charlie on the bike ride, would tell his mother, Mylena, where to look at around the Otay River trails. But unfortunately, as night grew darker and the rain got heavier, they would call the San Diego police and declare both boys missing. After no luck in finding the boys, 2 days later, on Monday, March 29th of 1993, a biker was riding his bike along the Otay River trails towards westbound, and he would come across a fort-style igloo man-made cave that was made out of tumbleweeds and leaves, and about 5 feet to 6 feet high and about 12 feet wide. And in this makeshift fort, he will find the body of a small child who was face down with clothes neatly piled under his head. And also he was completely nude from the waist down. The child's body would be identified as 13-year-old Charlie Keever. He would also find the body of 9-year-old Jonathan Sellers. Jonathan Sellers was found gagged and bound with a rope tied around his neck and hanging from a castor tree. He had extensive bite wounds to his genitalia, along with Charlie. He also sustained bite wounds to his genitalia. Both boys' causes of death was strangulation, and I'm going to keep it like that because this case is way more brutal, and I do want to respect the family members. Let's continue on with this case. Detectives from the San Diego Police Department would begin their investigation and collecting semen swabs along with other evidence, including swabbing the cheeks of both boys. Unfortunately, back in 1993, there was no suspects that was involved in taking the lives of these two beautiful boys, and their case would go cold all the way up until 2001. In 2001, after re-examining and reopening the case of Charlie Keever and Jonathan Sellers, DNA will become way more advanced, and they would finally get a hit from the swabs taken from 13-year-old Charlie Keever's cheeks, and it would come back to a man by the name of Scott Erskine. Scott Erskine was a convicted rapist who was already serving time for a rape that he committed just 6 months after he took the lives of 13-year-old Charlie Keever and 9-year-old Jonathan Sellers. He was also identified and responsible for the demise of taking the life of Renee Baker back in 1989 in West Palm Beach, Florida, and responsible for other crimes against family members and many other childhood friends. Nearly 10 years later, Scott Erskine would be tried and convicted for taking the lives of 13-year-old Charlie Keever and 9-year-old Jonathan Sellers. And in 2003, Scott Erskine would be found guilty of all charges, where a juror that was on his team could not decide if he or she wanted to go along with the death penalty for Scott Erskine. So a mistrial in his case during the penalty phase was appointed, and a new jury would be appointed to his case. And in 2004, all jurors on that team will vote unanimously on the death penalty. And in 2004, Scott Erskine was sentenced to death. He will start his sentence in San Quentin prison up into his 2020 death. Scott Erskine would die in prison from COVID complications. He was only 31 years old when he took the life of Charlie Keever and Jonathan Sellers. Please continue to pray for the family of Charlie Keever and Jonathan Sellers. May their memory continue to live on with those who miss them the most. Rest in peace to Jonathan Lee Sellers and Charles Allen Keever. Don't forget to continue to pray for each other, love each other, and be nice to each other. Until next time, thanks for watching.